Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari 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 Bo. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to this Sunday afternoon gathering. We are following the formula or format that the acharyas have given us, and that is to get together and do some Krishna Katha and chant the holy names of the Lord. And to do this as often as possible is the recommended process. So when we chant Jai Radha Madhava or the Hare Krishna Kirtan at the start of the gathering, it's essentially to generate some auspiciousness to this gathering that we are having on this Sunday afternoon. The understanding is that wherever there is Lord's name or his glorification being done, pure devotees are carefully watching, and they are in fact present in a variety of forms as well. So sincere chanting of the holy names and praising and glorifying the Lord attracts the attention of more pure devotees. And by that process, somehow it'll fall into Krishna's ears by the chain of disciplic succession that here we are, little jivas in a very small planetary system, Earth, trying to do our little bit to connect with him, connect with Krishna. So by this process, we will hopefully get connected with Krishna, which essentially is the purpose of human form of life, as per the Bhagavad Gita and a variety of scriptures that are at our disposal. So we'll start with some prayers to invoke the blessings of the Vaishnavas. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshura Unamilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, Gauranatraj Prabhu, thank you once again for the opportunity. I appreciate earnestly. We are today studying or discussing the message from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse number 16. So, Gauranatraj Prabhu, if you could please bring that up for us, and then we can have one volunteer to read the translation, and we can take turns to read the purport. And I could start by reciting the verse when it comes up. So 7th chapter, if you have access to the books, verse number 16. The name of the chapter is Opulence of the Absolute. Sorry, 7th chapter. Knowledge of the Absolute. Right, so thank you for the verse, Prabhuji. So the verse is, you can repeat after me wherever you are. The custom is to get into the Sanskrit and then understand the meaning and then go through the purport that Srila Prabhupada has given. Chaturveda bhajante mam Jana Sukriti Norjuna Artha Gigya Surarthati Jnani Cha Bharatarshabha. So that's the Sanskrit. If we bring up the translation, we can have maybe a volunteer to read the translation. I saw Shankar Prabhu, you're on screen. Are you able to read the translation for us?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Translation. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that, Prabhu. So before we get into the purport, let's just try and make sense of the verse itself and the translation. What's being referred to here is four kind of pious men. What do they do? They render devotional service unto whom? To Krishna. So we need to establish who is this personality, who is the recipient of this activity, which is being referred to as devotional service. And then we can get to what kind of people do this and what kind of people don't do this. So Lord Brahma is saying, Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. And Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, 8th verse, saying, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, mattha sarvam pravartate. He's saying, I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Mattha sarvam pravartate. Everything is emanating from me. So if that's the case, then we also are part of his creation, because we are part of this world. So we also are part of his creation. And by that, we understand that we have a certain connection with him, because he is our creator, he is our father. And how do we realize this connection? What is the process of realizing this connection that we have with the Supreme, who is, as per the scriptures, the source of everything? So the recommended process to realize this connection is by means of devotional service. So scriptures are telling us devotional service is the means to realize our connection with the Supreme. Now, what is devotional service? Again, because we consider scriptures as our mother that give us information about our Father, we take help from the scriptures again. And scriptures are telling us devotional service should be anukulena krishnanu, which means it should be such activities that give pleasure to Krishna, not to you and me. That, of course, happens as a result of discharging the activities. But the primary criteria of good devotional service is that it should be anukulena krishnanu. It should be satisfying and pleasing to the Lord. Now, how do you get more information about devotional service? How do you define what's devotional service? Again, we have to refer to the scriptures. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, there is a verse which reads, Dharmam tu sakshad bhagavad pranitam, which means Krishna's word is final. If you want to know how to connect with Krishna, how to do activities which are pleasing to Krishna, common sense tells us that we need to get that information from Krishna himself. Dharmam tu sakshad bhagavad pranitam. So religion or any form of spirituality or any devotional activity is not a case of mental speculation. This is an important point that we need to understand here. Spirituality, devotional service, religiosity is not a case for mental speculation. It has to be understood appropriately, accurately from Krishna himself, and he is speaking by means of scriptures that have been composed and put together by acharyas in disciplic succession. So this verse is saying, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukriti no Arjuna. Artha Gigyasura Arthati Gyanicha Bharatarshaba. So Krishna is saying 4 kinds of people render devotional service unto me. So before we get into the category of these 4 people, it's important to establish Krishna is the source of everything. Therefore, we are also his creation, and the purpose of life is to realize that connection. And that realizing of connection with the Lord is done by discharge of devotional service. And devotional service should be favorable and pleasing to Krishna, and it has to be understood by means of bona fide scriptures as it is. So our Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada has written is as it is, exactly the way it was spoken about 5,000 years ago by Krishna to Arjuna on the battlefield. No deviation from that, no mental speculation. If you want to revive the connection, it has to be understood as it is, without any deviation or mundane interpretation. So these 4 kinds of people are engaging in these activities. Now, as living beings, we understand that we are influenced by the modes of nature, and we are experiencing 3 kinds of miseries. There is Adidevik, Adibhautik, and Adhyatmik. Sufferings caused by our own actions, if we were to indulge in sinful activities, intoxication, etc., then that can inflict some suffering on our own bodies. Adhyatmik, Adibhautik. Then there is suffering caused by other living entities onto us. A very simple example is, you don't experience so much here, but in India or in any other tropical countries, you get mosquitoes in summer season. So mosquito, when it's trying to bite you and suck the blood out of your system, that is a small example of suffering caused by other living entities. And then there is suffering caused by divine powers. Nature or divine power, when it acts through the medium of nature and inflicts trouble upon the living being. For example, hurricanes, tornadoes, droughts, floods, these kind of natural calamities. So as living beings, we are continuing to experience these kind of sufferings. And it is also interesting to observe, I was just reading a National Geographic magazine a couple of weeks ago. It states that the record of the damage that these natural calamities are inflicting upon the human being is constantly being broken year after year. So if today we have a certain level of earthquake, then in the coming years, because of all the human activities, the intensity and the impact of natural calamities like earthquake, etc., is going to continue to increase. And that's very concerning, because it should not be the case, given that we are achieving so much advancement in science and technology. So why is it that even with continuous advancement in science and technology, we are continuing to experience more variety of sufferings, whether we know about it or no? Take, for example, the use of refrigeration, which is very, very common in homes, and most people would relate to that. There was a time when there was no need for refrigeration because the temperatures were controlled. I remember when I first went to study for my college and post-college in a city called Pune, the temperature used to be 20 degrees throughout the year. This was 25 years ago. And recently when I visited, the day temperatures had skyrocketed. There was absolute alarming levels of pollution, etc. So every day, even with advancement of science and technology, we are continuing to experience more variety of miseries. So refrigeration, for example, there was a time when there was no need. The members of the family who are meant to look after the house would stay in the house. The male or any other member would go out, earn basic living, and families would live peaceful. There'll be daily prasadam cooked in the house, absolutely fresh, offered to the Lord in a Vedic system. And then you start to meditate on desiring for more. And now we are in a culture where every member of the family is working. Nobody has the time to look after the house or give time to the deity. So there's no fresh food being prepared. People sometimes have the habit of preparing for the full week in advance and freeze it and then eat upon it later. So the refrigeration was thought upon as a wonderful idea to save time in cooking. And what happened as a result of that? Initially, the engineers were using ammonia to freeze, and some of you who are from science background would relate to this. Ammonia was being used, which was understood as harmful to human beings, so they stopped that. Then they came up with the chlorofluorocarbons. Chlorofluorocarbons were odorless, they didn't have an impact, and they came upon as an amazing alternative. And then billions and billions of dollars were invested into refrigeration using these gases. And then what happened? For those of you who are cued in to environmental changes, these chlorofluorocarbons and a number of other gases we use in refrigeration are creating holes in the ozone layer. And because of that, we are exposed to harmful excessive rays of the sun. So it's an example of how humans are continuing to experience miseries or troubles in a variety of ways in the name of advancing and improving our condition of life. Another great example is listening from Gurudev Radhanath Maharaj's recollection from his time with Prabhupada in New York. In those days, it was very difficult to move from one point to the other. So they invented the car, which would reduce the travel time. And then what happened? Everybody had a car. So even though it was taking supposedly, theoretically less time, or the distance between one point to the other had reduced, but it was only on paper because everybody had a car and the whole road would be jam-packed. And then a small distance, which could be covered by foot in 20 minutes, would take 10 hours because everyone's trying to get a space on the road. And then people will experience a variety of emotions. They will be frustrated, and sometimes you'll observe the frustration being vented in anger, and you have scenarios like road rage, etc. So they then decided to go underground. No space, no more space on the road, go underground. Creation of subway. And creation of subway, people traveling under the ground. And what these things do, we don't realize. They give rise to demoniac negative mentality. So when people are traveling underground, initially it was understood as an advancement, but then with time it was discovered that there was less monitoring and therefore increase in crime. Even the police would worry about managing that. And then with time, people decided to create air travel. So air travel came about because no space on land, very difficult to travel underground. Let's go in the space. And then with airspace, you know what happens? Initially designed to increase the comfort of the human being, to move them from one point to the other, but then used for negative purposes as well. It was easy now for any enemy to do a quick flight, get into your territory, drop a few bombs and go. So the point that I'm trying to make is that every advancement of technology, so-called development, so-called increase in the human intelligence, applying ways and means to increase the comfort, is essentially creating a variety of problems. And we have this COVID that we're experiencing very recently. We'll talk about that in a bit. So irrespective of whatever our current situation is, the point is that we continue to experience a variety of suffering, and that comes in three forms. So what's the solution? Again, by referring to the scriptures, we understand Krishna is saying very, very simply, Aham tuam sarva papebhyo. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Please, just come to me. Ma shuchaha. Do not fear, in the 18th chapter, as concluding words, Krishna is saying. So what is the problem? Why would living beings not surrender to Krishna when he's saying that no matter what, I will deliver you from your sinful reaction? Do not fear. And we see it evidently more and more that no matter how much advancement in technology we make, three kinds of suffering continue to inflict harm upon us again and again and again. Now, a wise man would appreciate and understand that the real issues in life are not to create refrigeration or a better means of transport. The real issues in life are birth, disease, old age, and death. This is something that nobody can escape. So I recall hearing a pastime. Prabhupada was once visited by a great mystic, and that mystic was performing all kinds of tricks. You know, he was generating different kinds of metals from sand, and he would walk on water, etc. He was performing great tricks in front of Prabhupada. So he then stops after a while, and Prabhupada asks him, he says, well, you're doing all these wonderful tricks, but can you make death go away? And the mystic immediately put his hands up and said, no, I cannot. Prabhupada replied, I can. So I'm a bigger magician than you are. Jai Srila Prabhupada. And what is the method of doing that? We all know. Chanting of the holy names bring us eventually to a point where the living being can be freed from the cycle of birth and death, birth and death. This repeated cycle of birth and death that pushes us through 8,400,000 different species can be broken at once by simply engaging in devotional service. And scriptures give us a variety of a great deal of information about what all activities can be performed as part of devotional service, as long as we fulfill the criteria, which is anukulena Krishna anu. It should be pleasing and satisfying to the Lord. So coming back to this verse, there is a prequel to it, and Krishna himself explains as to why is it that people don't realize, why is it that people are not surrendering to Krishna. And the prequel to this verse is Namam Dushkritano Mura Prapadyante Naradhama. Krishna is giving description of 4 kind of people who would not surrender. Mura. Mura is the opposite of Buddha. Mura means unintelligent person. It's just like a camel. The analogy is given. The camel is standing in the desert and he is chewing on thorns. And that chewing of thorns is creating bleeding in his mouth. But he's enjoying that, thinking that this is the purpose. So such is the case of unintelligent people who continue to amass volumes of property, wealth, etc. I remember once Prabhupada was making a point from one of his lectures. He says, if we were to say that we are creating, or the purpose of creating a building, put it with all the amazing technology, escalators, beautiful glasses, stained glass, etc., and make it look amazing, like, I don't know, take an example of Burj Khalifa or Petronas Towers or whatever amazing image of human architecture you can think of. If we were to say that the only purpose of creating these structures is to burn them down or bomb them, then would you say that it's a very intelligent thing to do? Similarly, if we are excessively looking after the body and creating simply more avenues for sense enjoyment so that the physical body can live supposedly comfortably, it is very similar to creating a building for the purpose of burning down. Because you know what happens after we've lived this life, which is a flash in the pan, the body is destroyed. In different religions, body can be converted into 3 forms. It becomes earth. In Hindus, we bury. In Christians, we bury. It becomes earth. Then in Hindus, you burn it, so it becomes ash. And in some cultures, the body is actually fed to the birds to eat. So it then becomes stool. So imagine the state of a body that eventually becomes either earth, ash, or stool. How much time and energy can we spend to look after this external body and create or waste this precious gift of life in simply creating avenues for material sense enjoyment without doing anything about reviving this forgotten connection with the Supreme Lord, who is Sarvasya Prabhavo, the source of everything. So 4 kind of people don't surrender to Krishna. Now, this verse that we are reading today is talking about 4 kind of people who do surrender to Krishna. It's important to understand the reverse to appreciate the present. So you will only know what is day if you experience night. Similarly, you need to know what 4 kind of people do surrender to Krishna, but before that, you need to know what 4 do not. So, Chaturveda bhajante mam jana sukriti no Arjuna. Jana sukriti no Arjuna. Krishna is saying there are 4 kind of people. Artha, people who are distressed. They have different kinds of ailments, disease, issues in life. mental health, physical health issues. Ardharthi, people who are desirous of accumulating wealth. Then Gigyasur. Gigyasur means inquisitive people, who want to find out. They've come to a stage where saying, yes, we've not been able to find solutions. Let's surrender to the Lord. Let's go to the temple. Let's ask the questions there. And there are some amazing structures around the world in the form of temples, and we have some in the Far East and in India, especially in the southern part, where the architecture of the temple is such that they provide an absolutely perfect ambience to make that connection. So 4 kinds of people: Gigyasur, inquisitive people, and then Jnani are the fourth kind of people who know the truth and are earnestly trying their best to connect with the Supreme. So 4 kinds of people who connect. But the key element with these 4 people is Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukriti. Sukriti is the common link between these 4. If there is no sukriti, then these 4 kinds of people would not necessarily connect to God. And it's easy to understand. Anybody who is ill or diseased or has any issues, they don't necessarily, all of them, go to the Lord. They approach the Lord only if by their own karmic bank balance, they appreciate and have some kind of faith. They have, because of their faith, generated some kind of piety. Only then they get qualified and eligible to approach the Lord. In this regard, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has composed these Prasadam Prayers. Many of us speak them without really thinking too much as to what's the meaning. It says, Mahaprasade Govinde Namo Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwaso Nev Jayate. Says Swalpa Punya. Swalpa means little credit, has to be present. If there is no piety, no credit, then it's very difficult to appreciate Mahaprasad, Govinda, Krishna himself, names of Krishna and the devotees, unless there is some piety. So the common link is some balance, some accumulation of pious activity. So today we have about 20 people, and we are coming together to listen to this message of Krishna. These are all basics you all very well know, but because of our conditioning, it's important for us to continue to reiterate this message in our minds and ensure that we don't forget what the real purpose is. Why is it that we have been given this amazing human birth? And what is the way to break the cycle of repeated birth and death? So some piety is essential. And without the pious credit, you don't qualify to connect with the Lord. There is another beautiful bhajan that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written, Nadia Godrume, Nityananda Mahajan. So it's Nadia Godrume, Nityananda Mahajan, Pati Achana Mahata Jivarakaram. He's saying, on the banks of river Nadia, Lord Nityananda has opened up a marketplace and he's distributing the holy name of the Lord. And then he goes on to sing the chorus, Shraddhavan Jan hai, Shraddhavan Jan, Shraddhavan Jan hai, Shraddhavan Jan. He's urging people of faith, oh people of faith, please come. He's not calling everybody. He is only calling people who have a certain amount of faith. People have that faith because they have accumulated some level of piety. So 4 kinds of people approach Krishna. Now, it's important to understand, and I will try and explain this by means of applied physics, that because we are connected with the Supreme and we are his part and parcels, this tendency or this ability to engage in devotional service is inherent in each one of us. The Newton's first law of motion is inertia. It says any body is going to continue to be in motion or continue to be at rest unless an external force is applied. So similarly, us as living being, we need that external stimulus to start rolling towards Krishna and take our steps on devotional service. And what is that external stimulus? It comes to us by means of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. To translate that very simply, association of like-minded people, association of individuals who are themselves practicing devotional service, association of individuals who are themselves qualified and have heard the truth. In the 3rd chapter, it says, what's the verse? Just ask the learned people. I'm forgetting the. Sorry.
Okay, so that the verse in the 4th chapter you are referring. Okay.
Yeah, just ask from the learned men. Ask humbly questions. Serve them earnestly, sincerely, for them to reveal the knowledge, because they themselves have realized it. What's the verse? Just for reference, I forgot totally.
Just give me 1 second. I'll bring it up.
No problem. That's fine. We've got the meaning. The essence is that we need to take shelter of realized souls who have themselves perfected their lives. Yes, it is the 4th chapter, Shankar Prabhu. 34 is just a Sanskrit. That's that. With all the other verses, it's just not easy to access our memory. I wish we had a keyboard on any part of the body. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. That's it. I wish we had a keyboard on our hands and I just type in some information and it pops up on the brain. But let's not go there, because you know what's going to happen. To increase the physical facility, we are continuing to create a variety of problems. So let's keep it simple and pick up a book, Bhagavad Gita, that Prabhupada's taken so much pains to put together, and the devotees around the world are pushing to distribute to as many people as possible. Let's stick to that. So we were talking about 4 kinds of people, and they have to have some piety, So how do you progress from one stage to the other? Not everybody is a jnani. Not everybody becomes a gigyasu. Not everybody necessarily needs to have issues, and not everybody may necessarily be desire of wealth. The recommendation is that you have to take shelter. You have to seek association of like-minded practicing devotees. And a great example is Dhruva Maharaj. We all know the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj is a little boy. He's playing with his father, King Uttanapad. And he's trying to sit on the lap of his father. We all know the story. It's good to recollect the learning. And his stepmother comes and rebukes him, saying, "You can't sit here unless you were to be born from my womb." Imagine the state of mind of a little boy, Dhruva, who's refused the most basic of rights, to be with the father. He's trembling, his lips are trembling, and he's very, very upset. He approaches his mother, and the mother says, "Yes, that's true. You can't be there, because even though I'm the elder queen, the king loves the younger queen more, and therefore I cannot get you that right. And in absolute anger and frustration, Dhruva Maharaj says, I want a kingdom bigger than my father. How do I get it? And the mother says, well, go to the Lord, ask Narayan. Where will I find Narayan? He's, you know how kids are when they are adamant. It's very difficult to reason with them because one, they have a very limited vocabulary. And second, it's just not possible to reason out with them. So the mother says, I don't know, my dear son, where you will find Narayan, but I've heard that the sages go to the forest when they want to meditate. So little Dhruva, he is going to the forest to search Narayan. And Narayan is, in his mind, supposed to give him a kingdom bigger than his father. His father was no ordinary king. He wasn't just the king of India. He was a king of the whole planet Earth, king of Tanapan at that point. So Dhruva is so determined, very, very gigyasu, very, very keen to know the Lord. He's going in the forest and he's asking, he's meeting Tiger. Tiger, do you know where Narayan is? Tiger's not responding. He's meeting the deer and all the other animals, and he's just asking the same question, where's Narayan? Where's Narayan? Where's Narayan? The Lord sees from within his heart and externally that this child is sincere. So by his kindness, he sends Narad Muni to meet Dhruv, who is just a boy Dhruv, and we eventually recognize him as Dhruv Maharaj because he becomes a great king. So Narad Muni goes to Dhruva. He says, hello, what are you doing? You're just a little child. Just go home. And I think you're taking all these insults very, very personally, very seriously. There's no need. Just go home. Your father is a big king. You will have plenty of share, more than you can enjoy, etc. And Dhruva Maharaj, very determined, insists, if you cannot tell me where Narayan is, please go. So Narad Muni recognizes that Dhruva is very, very determined, and he gives him the mantra. And the mantra is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Dhruva Maharaj is constantly chanting that. And within 6 months, by virtue of his sincerity, the Lord appears. And when the Lord appears, what happens? All the desires, all the grief, all the sadness in Dhruva's heart disappears totally. And Narayan says, Lord Narayan says, what do you want? And Dhruva says, I don't want anything. All my desires were like broken pieces of glass. And now I have seen you, I don't need anything. So such is the state of a pure devotee when, by following the process of devotional service, he approaches and has a sakshatkar or an audience with the Lord or some experience of the presence of the Lord, he reaches a stage of anya bhilashita shunyam. Shunyam. All other desires disappear. So a lot of times I get asked these questions, people message me and call me saying, I've been chanting, I've not experienced any joy in my life, or my condition still continues to be not so great. And what is this mantra? How long am I meant to continue to chant to see any tangible difference in my life, etc. People ask all these questions. But we need to understand that there is danger in engaging in devotional service with an ulterior motive. Because if we were to have a scenario where the Lord doesn't fulfill the desire, then after a while, the practitioner gives up because he's not seeing any tangible result, because he is engaging in the devotional service with an ulterior motive, with some desire. And likewise, if the desires are fulfilled, that's also dangerous, because then we go enjoy the fruits of our devotion. So in both scenarios, it's not favorable for a sincere devotee to approach the Lord or engage in devotional service with an ulterior motive. Gauratash, I'll just take a little bit more time. I just want to complete the whole topic, and then we'll spend about 10 minutes on Vrindavan Thakur as well. I hope that's okay. Thank you. So the message is that 4 kinds of people approach the Lord, and you have to have a certain amount of piety. Without piety, it is not possible. How do you generate piety? By engaging in acts of charity. Throughout the year, there are, as per the calendar, multiple ways of engaging in charity and generate what is known as a Gyat Sukriti. So engage in spreading the message of the Lord. Talk to your family members. Nowadays, people have slightly more time. Talk to your family members. Have these discussions. Present yourself as a practitioner. Find opportunity to read a book and eventually distribute a book. The most perfect means to preserve our culture is by distributing it. And I have recently heard that the pages of Bhagavatam, the quality of the pages of Bhagavatam that we are printing now is such that it will last for 500 years. So if you were to help one of your family members get a set of Bhagavatam, 5 generations, at least 5 generations are taken care of. And this is knowledge that is helping individuals to realize this forgotten connection with the Lord. And this is the only solution to break the cycle of birth and death. And this is the only solution for the real issues of life. Janam Mrityu Jara Vyadi. What can be a better gift? What more can you do for your friends and family than introducing them to this path of devotional service and try and connect them with the Lord? So we'll conclude with the closing comment to say that Krishna is the Supreme. We are connected with him. Don't worry about increasing your comfortable situation for the body. That's not the goal of life. So many examples how every attempt to increase the bodily comfort is resulting or causing more variety of miseries to come. The key element is pious credits. 4 kinds of people who don't approach Krishna and 4 who do. But of the 4 who do, you have to have some kind of piety to be able to get qualified to approach the Lord. It's not easy. And how do you do that? Is by association of devotees. These programs ISKCON Manchester and other temples are conducting are like the rope that's being thrown at us every Friday, every Sunday, every Saturday morning, once a month. Please continue to latch onto these sessions and come together and give each other strength to push forward on this path that we have chosen. We saw the example of Dhruva Maharaj. Even if we are not very, very pure, let's continue to have faith in the process. Eventually, we will get there. And remember, a pure devotee is not in it for any material benefit. Pure devotee never complains. Closer home, I can give the example of our dear mother, Gaura Arti Mataji. She's got a reasonably big house to run, and in the house, you get so many little accidents, a cut here, a burn there, a hit there. And every time, she tells me about what's happened to her, like a burn or a cut or a hit, she'll always close by saying, it could have been worse. I am thankful to the Lord that I only got a little hit or a little burn or a little cut. But that's the attitude a devotee should take. Never complain. If there is any misgiving, have a chat, come together, and push forward together on the road to Krishna. But no complaints, no ulterior motive, because that's the characteristic of a devotional service. Anya Bhilashita Shunyam, without any desire, and Anukulena Krishnanu, the last bit, pleasing and satisfying to Krishna. So with that, we will conclude the main talk for today. And I realize we've just gone slightly over 2 o'clock. It's a special day. We are also remembering the appearance of Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur. Gauranga Prabhu, one quick suggestion. Maybe what we could do is take 5 minutes now to take on any questions while we are on that subject, and then we can speak about Vrindavan Das Thakur. Is that okay?
Yeah, fine.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'm sorry, I'm taking the liberty. Normally in the temple we'll go until 3 o'clock, but we'll just stretch a little bit, and I'm happy to open up for any questions or comments that anybody might have. Please, more than welcome. You can raise your hand or type in or just show up. Are there any comments on YouTube or the
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Govind Das here.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the lecture. It was wonderful. I just wanted to mention, I pretty liked, the story it said about Prabhupada and that yogi magician. That no matter what they do or what they're able to do, they can't really vanquish, birth and death. It was a wonderful example. Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome, Prabhu. We have to remember what the real issue is. Let's not get illusioned and waste away this opportunity of life. Very important. Thank you for sharing that. Any other last one or two comments, and then we can get into the next stage.
So, Kumar Prabhu, thank you very much for the class. And the main point that I took from the discussion and the purport is that, when all these 4 types of devotees, although they are not pure, they're turning towards Krishna when there is with some motivation. Yes. But because they're turning towards Krishna, that it's their piety actually, it makes them turn towards Krishna. Some people in the distress can actually go away from Krishna. But these people, when there is distress, for example, they turn towards Krishna. So there is a motive. And the point Prabhupada mentions, and also you mentioned that they become pure devotees when they come in contact with the devotees of the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord. Just like, you gave the example of Dhruv Maharaj. Although he had a motive in the beginning, that he wanted a kingdom greater than that of his grandfather. But, he came in touch with Narada Muni. So then he became pure. So ultimately, the association of the devotees is the key to success. Having realized that if we criticize these devotees, if we try to find fault with the devotees and not associate with the devotees, what is our future? So it is the key. Only we are all here. Just if you think, because there is one devotee, at least one devotee in our life. Somebody was doing something. Even opening the temple, just opening the temple means there is so much work there, so many devotees are involved, and then we are able to go and take shelter and associate with the devotees. So, yeah, that's what's going through my mind. I thought I would share that with you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Spot on, Prabhu. Whatever I spoke in 1 hour, you just summarize in 1 minute. That's the sign of an expert devotee. I'm just beating around the bush. You just went straight to the point. But you gave me 60 minutes to speak. So, thank you for summarizing. It was very rightly put. Yes.
There is a comment from Lalita Preeti, I think. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying the important bit is no matter what stage we are, let's not lose hope in the process. Continue to push forward. And the only companions we have on this path, which is not very easy sometimes, are devotees. Let's give due respect to every practitioner, no matter what their shortcomings are. We have so many ourselves. So on that note, let's just take 5-10 minutes to glorify and remember a very, very exalted devotee of the Lord, His Grace Vrindavan Das Thakur. Vrindavan Das Thakur is an exalted devotee of the Lord, and the understanding is that whenever Lord comes in his pastimes, all his associates travel with him, and they take some of the other role to play a variety of Leela for the pleasure of the Lord, and we then take pleasure in remembering them and appreciating all the work that these devotees have done, which again in turn help us remember the Lord and help us develop this relationship. So Vrindavan Das Thakur is actually understood as an incarnation of Vedavyas. Maharishi Vedavyas compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam, and in his next incarnation, he became Vrindavan Das Thakur, and he put down Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela together. So he's an incarnation of Vedavyas. It's written in some places that apart from Vedavyas, he also had an element of Krishna's friend in him. So there were some influences from that pastime as well. Vrindavan Das Thakur's mother, Narayani, was related to Srivas Pandit. Srivas Pandit is one of the 5 personalities of the Panchatattva, primary associates of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So Srivas Thakur's elder brother or younger brother's daughter is Narayani. And Narayani, Vrindavan Das Thakur's mother, had ample opportunity to associate with the Lord in his Gauranga form and partake in the pastimes and feed on the Lord's Mahaprasadam. And as a result, the auspiciousness was created for Vrindavan Das Thakur to appear as Vyasa of Kali Yuga and the authority on putting the Lord's pastimes together as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are, we recently went through a course on Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the understanding is that there are 27 versions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leelas. Variety of authorities have put together Mahaprabhu's pastimes, but the most prominent are the ones that have been put together by Vrindavan Das Thakur and Krishnadas Kaviraj Thakur. Initially, Vrindavan Das Thakur put together the pastimes. It was known as Chaitanya Mangal. Chaitanya Mangal. Mangal means brings about auspiciousness. So the understanding was anybody who would read the pastimes of Mahaprabhu will automatically create an amazing amount of auspiciousness, which will create the way for realizing the forgotten connection. But then Lochan Das Thakur also composed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leelas in a book, and he also named that Chaitanya Mangal. And then it was decided that Vrindavan Das Thakur's version would be known as Chaitanya Bhagavat. In ISKCON, we refer to Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is put together by Krishnadas Kavidas Thakur. Prabhupada chose that version to be translated, but all of these acharyas had amazing respect for each other, and they did not attempt to put any one of them down. So when Krishnadas Kavidas Thakur was instructed by Nityananda Prabhu to put down Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, he very carefully analyzed Chaitanya Bhagavat first, or Chaitanya Mangal, and then decided to elaborate on the areas that Vrindavan Das Thakur did not give much detail about. For example, his pastimes as a sannyasi and a preacher eventually. Those are the pastimes that Krishnadas Kavidas Thakur has more elaborated on. And Vrindavan Das Thakur's work is primarily focused on Mahaprabhu's, Nityananda Prabhu's Leela as children. Bal Leela is more emphasized on. So these two pieces of work are beautifully composed. Information about Vrindavan Das Thakur and Narayani Mataji come from a book called Gaur Ganadesh Dipika. There is a nice verse. It says, I'll read it for you. Veda Vyaso ya eva siddhaso Vrindavano dhuna Sakha yaha kusuma pida karayatas tam sama vishad. Translation is, Veda Vyas became Vrindavan Das Thakur, and Krishna's friend Kusuma Pida also entered him for special purposes. So this is a direct reference from the scriptures, and Veda Vyas describe Krishna Leela and Srimad Bhagavatam, and non-different from Vyas's Vrindavan Das Thakur, who's described Mahaprabhu's Leela in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Both these books sets are available. You might say, Madhakumar, never miss an opportunity to promote or distribute a book, but such is the nature of the services we have available, especially in times like this. But amazing compositions, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat. Chaitanya Bhagavat is 7-book set. We are taking time every Friday to go through the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Charitamrita also is a wonderful composition, 9-book set. So if you feel inspired to read a bit more about the Lord, his pastimes and various avatars and various appearances, then dip into these books and take some time to try and push it and distribute it to your friends and family as well. Like I said, that's the only way to preserve our culture, our Vaishnava Dharma. Otherwise not. If we restrict it to ourselves, remember, after this short, tiny span of life, it'll die with us. We don't want that. We want this to continue for our future generations, continue and extend it to our friends and families. So we need to take up that mood. Prabhupada in Srimad Bhagavatam is saying in almost every page, become the instrument of peace. Krishna on every page is saying, surrender to me, I am the Supreme. I will take care of you. And when we know this is a formula to achieve world peace, why would we not share it with everyone? If we feel for these friends and families, don't worry about what their response will be. At the max, they'll say no. Here's a tip, and I'll close with that. Look up your phone. There are at least 500 contacts in there. Just choose 10 people and call them up over the next couple of days. If one person says yes, you're victorious. But take time out to share with your friends and family. That's the only way to preserve. We cannot be selfish to restrict it to ourselves. It's not the right approach, in my opinion. Do a little bit. Yes, of course, perfect your own sadhana bhakti, but when will we become perfect? Till the end of life? Maybe not. So we can't miss an opportunity to share it with people as we go along. And what will happen when we share it with people and we help more people become devotees? They in turn will fuel our own development. That is my point. and I'll rest my case with that. Thank you, Guru Prabhu, for the wonderful opportunity. I took 15 minutes extra, but I thought it was nice to meditate on the acharyas and their contribution and just drive home the point that it is a people's movement. We cannot do it ourselves. We need devotees to support us on our journey. And how do we create more devotees? Is by distributing this information that Prabhupada's put together so painstakingly. We all know the story. So please, in this month or whenever you think is opportune, round up a list of your colleagues, friends, families, and take it from me, they're only on the other end of the phone. They cannot shoot you down. The max they will say is no. But try for the pleasure of the Lord and his devotees. Anukulyena Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Mahaprabhu. Yes, we need someone like you. In the lockdown, I think, some of us seem to be spaced out. So we need a motivator like you. So great to see that, you continue to have this enthusiasm for spreading and sharing this message with others, and especially through the books. Amazing to see. Sometimes we think, it's lockdown and no one is around, then, we do something else. But nice to hear that, push. And yeah, also it is the appearance of, Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur. If anybody wants to buy a set of Chaitanya Bhagavat, they can get a set. What an auspicious day to get a set of Chaitanya Bhagavat for themselves or for someone else for whom they know. So a couple of quick announcements. This month, Fridays, we are, Dinbandhu Prabhu is doing a talk on discussion between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanand Rai. There are so many wonderful lessons that we can learn from that. A wonderful discussion that had happened between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanand Rai on the bank of River Godavari. We had the first class on Friday, last Friday, and there will be 2 more sessions as well in this month. And we are still, keeping an eye on the government rules. And I just checked the BBC page, and it says the government is open to delay the lockdown easing. So I don't know what the discussions would be. But if you want to, meet some of you, meet up some devotees, they can talk to each other, and as per the government guidelines, they can meet up in a park or at home, as per the government guidelines. And recently, just a few days ago, a devotee family just came to see us. We sat in the garden like that. So devotees still can do that, and especially if you're meeting in the park, we know as per the government guidelines up to 30 people. So speak to some of the devotees and associate. But we will keep you posted what we are going to do with regards to reopening of the temple based on government guidelines. That's it from me. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo.
Thank you to all the devotees for positive comments. Thank you. Please continue to keep us in service. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna.